We are live. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me, Miggy, as we have spent the majority of our time figuring this out, or me with the whole new way of sharing with everyone. Miggy from Infinite Flow Healing. Is that
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the honor of being here with you today. You know how much I love you. And so I'm excited to be a part of your little podcast or vlog.
Series of conversations, right?
Yes, yes.
Whatever this is. A while back, I was thinking about just different ways to share the little bit that I know about social media with different light workers, way showers, like people, that have so much to share, and there's so many um, like so much wisdom, so many amazing things that could be so helpful for other people. But this thing, even, for me with this like social media thing, it's like how do we get, because I've met, these people in person, and it's like how do we get that, here, and being that bridge is kind of what really, I don't know, fascinated me about doing classes and like different things, just to like sort of bridge that a little bit for different people. But speaking of meeting, so many amazing people. I have met you. I met you online, and oh my gosh, Miggy, I feel so at home, so at peace when I'm in your energy and with you. And it's just so interesting because in the group that we met, it's like I just was so attracted to you instantly. It just felt like home. And there's a few people that I have met which the best way that I can describe, and you're one of those people, like very few, that I describe as a spiritual giant. That's it. I don't know if that makes sense logically, but it's just how it makes sense in my heart because of your presence and your peace, even if it's not a spiritual like situation. You just are like even if it's just a conversation about like a random thing. I just feel that largeness of you, and it's so amazing. So I'm so excited that we can have these conversations, and I'm even more excited to share. I want to share you. uh,
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. So I've heard that before, and it's so interesting, right? Because sometimes we don't see that part of ourselves. So I've heard that, but in different ways. Like I've heard people say to me, like, you have this um, quiet but powerful spirit about you, and you're like I had a supervisor that said you have this powerful calmness about you that whenever things are happening around us and it seems all crazy, you're the one person that everybody can go to just kind of get back to that place of calm. And she's like, I don't even think you realize how powerful it is. But so I've heard it in different ways, and so thank you so much. And I just find it like so interesting too with us how we connected through this online platform presence. And it turns out that we're so close to each other in physicality, right? Like we connected online with this group that had a lot of people from all over the place, and yet we were so close to each other, so nearby. And I just I'm always like amazed at when you make those connections. So yes, interesting. Thank
I
you, thank you,
know.
thank you.
And I totally agree with your supervisor, which is what I guess, yeah, your supervisor used different words, but as you were speaking, that's exactly um, how I feel. And yesterday I was thinking that it's like this safety of this like huge encompassing presence of I could literally, I don't know, just do something or want to share about, want to regroup about something, want to share about something, and I know and trust and feel safe. Like I could be like, I could share that with Miggy to feel like you're gonna immediately see the real me, call out what it is, and it's just all love at the end of the day of this is what's balanced and this is what's not balanced and this is the bigger picture, which is amazing, especially because you hold space, you have your offerings, and um, yeah, when you bring that to the table, that's just, so yummy and so helpful and so needed at this time. Um, so needed.
Yes, a lot of, a lot of what we see going on in the world is usually because people just want to be heard, people just want to be witnessed, people just, and so I'm glad that you feel that from me. I know for me, it's just really more about making sure that people feel loved, right? Like that's for a big part of how I show up is just being the best expression, the most powerful expression that I can be in that moment of love, because I think that's what the world needs.
For sure.
Mhm.
Um, Share with me a little bit about young Miggy, like little Miggy in your younger years, and like just how, I mean, I don't know if you did know at a very young age your energy and what you can't help but be for other people, right? That life purpose, blueprint, all of the things. But the things that you would do that, like, now looking back, you're like, oh, of course. Like, I was just being myself and who I came here to be and share. Um, do you have any of those moments?
That's interesting because I can see it now, right? Like I can see it now, like who I was at that time. But the young Miggy, a lot of people would probably, especially my mom, would probably describe as just very kind of like a quiet rebel. Like
Mm,
I was always I think I had a pretty quiet spirit, like pretty much like I am now. But there was still that streak of rebel and wanting to do things different and questioning things, and but I realize that a lot of that is so internal for me. So it probably happens more in my head. So I'm not sure that that was expressed on the outside as much. Um, but I can still, like now I can still see some of that. Like I can go back and look at some situations and just see how I there was that quietness in me, but in the inside there was that, I'm gonna show you, or I'm gonna do something different, or I'm still gonna, um, test and do, and do whatever it is that I feel. Um, I think another thing that I think about too is I question. I question a lot. I question a lot of things. I question people. I even question myself, and I tell people to do that. I think that's so healthy. Nothing is ever as it seems,
mm,
right? And everything that we see, we're looking at it through the lens or the perspective of our current level of consciousness, right? And so I have this habit of just questioning things. So even though I'm looking, and I think that's a part of me that I can see a lot in the little Miggy. Little Miggy was always like, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, or I see what's going on here, but there's got to be more to this. So that wanting to question things, wanting to explore it, wanting to look at it at a deeper level, that was something that little Miggy was always doing. And again, I think for me, the process is so internal that there may be people that saw that in me, But there's probably a lot of people that didn't, or the people that saw it might have taken it as me being um, a rebel and fighting them instead of um, kind of recognizing that it was just that curiosity in me that there has to be there's got to be more to this, that it's not so black and white. Like, I don't see things as black and white. To me, we exist in the gray, right? And there's always a different perspective to be gained and to look for.
Mm,
So.
that's amazing. It was just reminding me of I don't know, it's been so present in my mind lately. Children, my own and others, and um how trusting, what they're questioning and perceiving is so important, and especially in them voicing things out that question our own, the adults' um,
Mhm.
thoughts and beliefs, and um, having everything be malleable. Of yes, I have, reasons to have, certain opinions and things, but is it possible, that I could shift my perspective a little bit and see a whole new different thing? I know my own children have done that for me a lot, where I'm like, you know, and of course, the ego or the, mind wants to be like, fight that.
Yeah, it
um,
does. And you use the word trusted, and for me, it's also like nurture it and encourage
mm,
it as well. And so, and because kids, the way they see things is with such an innocence and purity, right? The way us adults are seeing things are usually coming from a place of conditioning, right? And maybe like fear and mistrust. And but for them, like, their questions are always coming from a place of purity and love. And um it's our conditioning that kind of gets it. And you use the word like ego, I use the word conditioning, but pretty much the same thing, right? It's our conditioning that has that habit of no, and feeling what's the word, like feeling attacked by it, right? But for
yeah.
them it really is just an exploration, a curiosity, because that's what kids do, right? They explore and they want to learn, and so.
Yeah, I have a teacher of mine that doesn't use the word ego, and the reason is because immediately people are like, "Wait, that's not my ego," um, or it's like a very there's a lot of like stickiness to that word, or can be, but yeah,
Yes.
so many different, programming, you know,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
the mind, the whole thing. Um, and the reason why I did this or want to do this series and continue it and have soul to soul conversation, which is kind of like the description that I gave it, and like heartful conversations, right?
Hmm.
Is because like when we are in our heart, like with you, it's immediate. Like as soon as I see you, it's like heart to heart connection, I feel like. And that is very childlike to me. So it's like everything that you were describing, how they are very like pure and in childlike in the way that they're curious
Yes.
about things that's not personal. It's not
Mhm.
like an agenda behind things. It's not personal. It's like a genuine curiosity. And sometimes when that questions people's matrices, then that's kind of the tug of war sort of thing, but where it's coming from is a place of heart. And when I feel like when we connect heart to heart, all our opinions and beliefs and programming and whatever it is
Let's
kind of like go to the side,
slide.
and we just have that connection. We're just like, oh, okay, we're two drops of the same ocean.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what where we came from, how we grew up, we can always have these conversations, no matter what state of consciousness people are at. Like there's always a bridge, and that's love, and that's the heart.
Art.
That's that,
Yes.
right? That highway that you so effortlessly um do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's why I love, because our hearts are just like, oh, let's hug. and
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 you
let's
know
have
what?
that chat.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point about the heart, right? And that's one of the reasons I often say to people like stay in your heart, stay in your heart, connect to your heart. Like anytime that you're in a space of just feeling overwhelmed or fearful or stressed or whatever, like go back to your heart, connect to your heart, like try to bring attention to it, right? Because the heart really is that place in us where our divinity resides. And when we connect back to that, right, all the separation, all the stress, all the like that fighting energy, right, kind of like melts away, right? Because our heart and our divinity and who we are at soul level is all about love and peace and you know and unity. So
Yeah, that coherence,
mhm,
blissful state, which, for me, I go in and out, and I try to remind myself, and my breath always brings me back. But I really love that. Yeah, it's such a it's probably the most powerful thing to have that um, tool to continuously come back.
mhm,
Um, because especially being in this world of like learning and growth and in the realms of spirituality and all of the things, like it's not supposed to make us like separate. It's supposed to bring us closer together, and regardless of what anyone else thinks different, and that's the place where we can always meet anyone. There's that, or we can look at someone in the eyes, whether it's a child or an adult, or someone that's done terrible things. Like, and I know that place can be sticky for some people to
yeah,
like go there. But even then, there's a little seed that's there.
mhm.
um, yeah. Do you feel like you are fully living your life purpose, your um, what you came here to do? Are you?
I think I think for the most part, right? I am, but there's still that part of me sometimes that feels a little restless, like it's there's still more to it that maybe I haven't yet tapped into or activated. And well, and I guess that makes a lot of sense, right? Because we as souls, we're constantly evolving. So there's always
Mhm.
going to be like a next level of it. So I do feel that I'm living my life purpose. I do feel that a lot of what I'm here to share is around the work that I do, a lot of like healing and, but there's definitely like deeper levels of that, right? And so I'm always like trying to see, how can we go a little bit deeper with that work, right? Or how can I go a little deeper within myself to express more, right? So
Mm,
mhm.
I love that. It's so sweet. How can I go deeper within myself to express more?
Yeah.
And oh, that's so yummy. I love that.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, speaking of, it sounds like it's what is it called? Like there's so many pieces to it, and one of them being your offerings and what you have there. What you want to share with us? What it is that you currently offer at the moment in Infinite
Sure,
Flow
sure.
Healing?
So my offerings are, they kind of keep evolving. So there was a time where I was offering these things kind of like separately, right? Because I offer kind of like an intuitive reading or readings to kind of look at life circumstances or relationships or something from a bigger perspective, an energetic perspective, to help people kind of gain some insights into, what may be going on with a situation, or what might be holding them back, or whatever it is. Then I started off with the energy healing piece of it. I am trained in Reiki and archangelic light and shamanic Reiki. So, and I tend to kind of combine those together usually when I'm doing my work. And then, because I was a former social worker, school counselor, I had a lot of those kind of like, counseling type skills. And so like I'm trying to use some of that kind of like like in coaching, using some of that skill. So like, we've cleared the energy of whatever the situation is. You have some insights now that can really help you to kind of see yourself differently, and maybe even see the situation or the people that might be a part of it differently, right? So how do you take that now? What do you do with it, right? Because part of the service is also to help people kind of transform themselves, transform the situation, transform the emotional pain, whatever it is, so that they can move forward. So like the way I'm doing it now is kind of like combining all three of those things, all those modalities together to kind of help people um, you know, get to a point where they experience change, transformation, and healing, and can move forward in life.
That's
So,
amazing. You offer a whole journey. I was picturing just sort of like a little road, and it's like this is before your journey, this is like the beginning of it. And doesn't a journey always transform someone even in the like you can't go back to who you were after you go through um what you go through, and there's gonna be some sort of release, and that's amazing that you're there to guide that, that a person's not just like going through a tunnel by themselves and it's like ah, you
yeah.
know um
And that's so interesting that you call it a journey, because, I was doing packages with the different services and offerings, right? And that's what I call them, journeys, right?
oh really.
Around different topics. It might be like, up leveling my life, or, reclaiming power, whatever it may be. But that's what I called it too. And yet it's so true. Like, once you can see the insight, gain that gift of clarity about what might be going on in the situation, it's true. You can't go back. Like, once you see something, you can't unsee it, right?
Hmm.
Now, there are times that we'll try to ignore it and say, "Ugh, I'm not ready to go there. Or I'm not ready to do anything with that," right? But what happens is, the longer you sit in that space of knowing something, right, but not taking action on it, the more uncomfortable you become. The more uncomfortable, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, I see this, like I see this reality, right? I see who I really am. I see the situation for what it is, and I know that it has to shift, but I'm not taking any action on that. That's uncomfortable space to be in.
Mm.
That
Mm.
really is uncomfortable space. But um, we do it. We do it often. Like, even when we have grown, right? And maybe don't do it as often, or don't stay in that space too long, we still have moments where we get there. Because I know I do. I still have moments where I face things that are kind of like, very painful or emotionally charged, and it kind of like, oh, right? Now the beauty is that I think now I have so many tools that I can move through that a lot faster than I used to, right? But I still have those moments.
For sure. To
We all do.
process and be in the human experience and um yeah, feel through it and grow through it,
Yeah.
and they're not the funnest because
They're
I do have lots of those.
they're not, and yet the joy
Mm,
and pleasure once you do decide to move through it, it just you can't compare it. So there are times that I have said to people, it's not going to be fun. It's going to feel painful. But when you are able to heal, break a pattern, and you see how that transforms your life, oh my gosh, that is like worth it, right?
mm,
Like you don't recognize that when you're starting to do the work and when you're in that place of pain and constriction, you don't recognize it. But when you've been able to break through, right? It's like, oh, what a joy. What a joy. And
yeah,
so, not easy, but definitely worth it at the end.
keeping um the heart open. That's kind of the what it requires to keep it that way, right? Which is the
Yeah.
constriction, I feel like, that
Yeah.
closure of not going through it. And I was just picturing how you're so right. It's kind of like for me, my own experience in knowing that it's there, like you were sharing, whether I have to process grief or go into something that I'm just kind of like putting to the side, like not yet, not yet. um, Once I do step into it, it's not what as big as I pictured. Like like I can do it. I can handle it. I am equipped to, especially if I ask for help or support from other people that have gone through it or that, can witness me, can be there for me. It's the word's not easier exactly, but it's um less burdensome, I guess, to
Hmm.
describe it in a way,
Not so
or heavy.
charged. Yeah.
Charged is a good one,
Yeah.
yeah. 'Cause I'm like, how do
Yeah.
I
Not
describe
that.
this?
And that's like when that's why for me, I feel like energy healing is so powerful, like, Reiki and all, because it helps us to dissipate the charge and the heaviness of things. And once we can do that, right, then it's easier to kind of move forward and stuff because it is true, the mind really can create all kinds of scenarios. We do. Like it really is. But a lot of times I always say too, like whatever it is we're experiencing is perfectly okay. It's a
Mm.
part of the process. It's a part of um the lesson. It's part of the gift, that we have to go through to get to the other side.
Yeah, and there's always gold. There's always a moment of revelation, to call it that, even in the craziest situations. So I was just recently learning to um, train myself, I guess is the word I could use. Words fail me because I don't like that word necessarily. It's not like a arduous training or like a must. It's more of like teaching softly, gently, to look for those moments always when craziness happens, especially in today's world and the amount of access of information that we have, when everything seems like it's burning and going nuts, that there will be those moments that that there's light, that it I wouldn't have been able to see them or witness them or feel them if it hadn't for this one thing that I wish hadn't happened, or right.
Yeah. 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 It's like it usually like in the moment. again, in the moment of any experience, especially experiences that are hard and, emotionally charged and painful for us, it's hard for us to see the gift in it. But really, pain is it really that there's a gift in there, and it's usually leading us to a new way of being, to more expansive experiences, to, um, to more love, to more, it really is, it's a guiding light, you
Deeper
know.
connection.
Yeah, yeah, even though we fight it so much, and we do constrict, and sometimes we, like you said, sometimes we close off the heart, and and I also say sometimes, like, we spiritually disconnect, we forget who we are, right?
Mm.
Like that, we forget about our divinity and the divinity in others, right? And we shut down. um but yeah, um working through that, um feeling it, you know, using whatever tools, whatever resources that you have, because sometimes the resources are tools, sometimes it's other people that can support you, that can hold space, doing whatever it is that you need to do to transform it and find, like, the lesson, the gift in the situation.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were talking, the word curious came to me. I think that's a really beautiful way to get started when it seems like too scary or overwhelming,
Yeah.
to look into um, forgiveness, or if that's what's on the side that you got to take a look at and you don't want to, like, I don't really want to forgive
That's
people in my life right now. And that's the heart, and that's the more. There's things that it's such a big place, the heart, that there's so many different things in there. And yeah, so when we don't necessarily want to look there, getting curious as to, well, maybe I don't have to forgive just yet, and I'm not ready to, but I want to get curious to see um, a tiny thing, just to like get a little bit closer, and with the help of other people that are not judging you, they're just holding space for you
right.
to get curious and feel safe in that. It's kind of what is so helpful. And I was thinking, with the tools, especially people that have been in the have awakened a long ago, and they've been in the spiritual journey for a long time. um, there's a level of perfection that um, wants to trickle in. And I know, like, now speaking of my own experience, as we were sharing just moments ago about looking for the gift in it, and all of those things, and having that human experience of, like, because I know for me, like, the way perfection came into me is like, no, I have the tools, I have my friends, like, I know how to, like, navigate these things. And so when there's a moment of, like, that doesn't look spiritual, you know, um, it it it's like me not wanting to experience my humanness, and the beautiful mess that it is to be
That
human, right?
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
That
like,
um that imperfect perfection that we are. We really, like, we're perfectly imperfect. That's
mm,
part of the human experience. Um so ah,
yeah. And so from those moments, just, then I see that, like, beautiful, wholesome moment that comes from that. And like, it all just, it's like, wow, if I hadn't gone through that, then I wouldn't have experienced that. But it just because I have, like, certain tools, and just because I, have learned a thing or two, doesn't mean that I am required now to be perfect in my spiritual journey and not feel human
yeah,
uh, emotions and life, and, like, here, grounded on planet Earth.
And that's, you bring up a really good point too, that a lot of times, um, in people who are in or consider themselves to be kind of like in the spiritual um realm, or spiritual journey, there is a tendency to sometimes to think that it's all about our light and those aspects of ourselves, right, that people deem as, beautiful and loving, but the spiritual experience is all about acknowledging and being acceptance of all of it, right? The light and the dark, because they both offer and bring something into our human. They all have a gift, right? And so this idea that I have to be perfect and all love and light all the time, right? That really is spiritual bypassing, you know, because those darker parts of ourself, that shadow aspect of ourself, it's part of the human experience, and we can't ignore it. And from an energetic perspective, right, the more you resist something, the more it persists. So if you're
Mm,
not willing to look at those darker aspects of yourself, or your shadow side, or be in acceptance with those moments where you might go there, right? If you're not willing to be okay with that, then what's going to happen is that's going to grow even bigger, because you're resisting it, right? And the more you resist something, the more it persists and the more it wants to come out. And that's why it's so important to be able to witness it, see it within yourself, name it, because once you name it, you can tame it, right? But if we're trying to hide, right, and we're trying to hide it, and we don't want to feel vulnerable, and we don't want to say whatever it is that we're experiencing, because we think that, it's too dark, or people are gonna, see us as imperfect, then we're really not doing the work of heart there, if we're trying to deny that that's a part of it, right? Like,
yeah.
so, but yeah, there's a lot of people who want to just stay focused on the love and light part of it, right? But those moments when we're in fear, those moments where we're a little angry, or those are all part of the human experience. That just shows that you have a capacity to feel, right? That it shows that you're alive. It shows you,
Mhm.
right, that you're alive, that you're a feeling being. And um there's nothing wrong with those moments, right? Like, now, I definitely believe that staying in it, right?
Mm,
Like, we don't want to get caught in it, right? Because then that's when we can become very destructive towards ourselves or others. So we don't want to stay there, right? But we definitely want to be kind of like an observer, right? Of, ooh, wow, look at that anger that I'm feeling right now, and what is that trying to, because really that anger or pain or the heavier stuff is there to tell us something might be, something might be amiss, something needs to be addressed, something, so it's there to say, hey, hello,
mhm.
this is, it's an emotion that's there to show you that there's something that you're not dealing with, that you're not willing to look at, that you're not willing to work through, right? The moment you acknowledge it and you say, oh, okay, whoa, right, I feel this anger, and I'm feeling it because I'm not, you know um I haven't been upholding my boundaries, or right? Then I could say, oh, okay, then now I see where it's coming from. And then what do I do with that now? How do I shift it? Right? How do, so,
Yeah. I think a really helpful way of seeing like different emotions because like children always just come to mind. The first example is that, if something's not working out, for a kid and their tantrum, it's just like expressing and feeling that emotion, that sensation, and then they're fine, you know? But
Yeah.
there's constructive and destructive ways of feeling and going there to those places where they're not direct, it's not personal. They're just allowing it out of
Right.
their system. And then a really helpful way for me as an adult is to see, whatever's coming up for me, um, to see it as a kid, right? So, for example, if I am, um, I don't know, for some reason I go down the rabbit hole and having some sort of meltdown of, I don't know, something physical, like not feeling beautiful enough, not feeling thin enough, not feeling, whatever it is. Um, if that was if that was my daughter, if that was a child, I wouldn't just, to not feel it, to be like, well, just go put on some makeup and you're fine. Like, just lose some weight, you know? I wouldn't speak to a, a child that way. I
Right.
would I would look at her and I would hold her and I would say, okay, what's going on here? What is it that you want to share with me? Like, what's underneath that,
Beneath that.
right?
Yeah.
Like
You
this.
bring up you bring up a really important point, and that's why the whole inner child work is so powerful, right? Because it's kind of like looking at that aspect of yourself that is trying to be seen, trying to be heard, trying to, right? And really like acknowledging that and being present with it and being okay, like that there's nothing to fix or change or
Hmm.
and move on to. So I love that you made that connection to children because we wouldn't do that. And actually, a lot of times we wouldn't even do that or respond in that way even to our adult friends, our best
Yeah.
friends, right? So why do we do that with ourselves, right?
Why?
Why
Right.
are we so critical? Like oftentimes, like it's not how
It's a
we would
good
treat.
moment to like catch myself. And I love the what you brought up, which was not getting stuck in it, right? If there's something for me to look at and I know it, and then I go into it and not getting stuck in it, because I had this thing where the line was blurry for me, as far as to feel collective events, right? How much do I physically, how much can I process, right? Because again, like we were sharing, there's so much accessible to me and know that's happening in so many different parts of the world at all times. There's always like things happening, right?
Hmm.
And um, what I learned is that it's about feeling it, right? Because I don't want to like not see it and like, because I'm protecting my high vibe or whatever it is. It's about, trusting myself in what I can process and what I can feel, but not getting stuck there and not wanting to change. You said that, of just like witnessing and not wanting to change necessarily certain scenarios, and just being so grounded in my light, in my energy, to be that pillar of light, which is my work here on planet Earth, which is what, I came here to do, but not to think that I know better than, and this is more like a higher perspective. Of course, there's always a time and a place of things that I can do, and will do, but this is more as far as like just being with, and not necessarily having an agenda to change, and
Change.
and just be, and feel and process and not get stuck in it, because yeah, there are certain things, and especially, if like my human is like, oh my gosh, but yeah, I this one time I witnessed someone run over a goose or something, and it seemed like it was on purpose. The goose was suffering. I couldn't do anything about it because I was on one like lane that was only going this way, the other lanes were going this way. And I had to be there. Like I couldn't move. There was traffic, and it was so hurtful in my heart, And it's that thing where I'm not gonna pretend it's not happening. Like
Hmm.
I have to feel it and keep my heart open. but also I'm not getting stuck in that part of,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a thing where I like come and go. The other
Yeah.
thing that you were sharing was, you know, the transformation requires that release of things that are no longer working for us. And, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, allowing ourselves to be open. And with all that said, it's so important. And this is just something that I want to remind people who listen to us is if you're feeling yourself in that space, is to trust yourself and find someone that you feel, if you're wanting to look for help and things like that, find someone that you feel aligned with and you feel safe
With.
in to open up and be vulnerable in. That's so important because inserting ourselves in certain spaces where they don't have the capacity to witness us and then we open up and we're vulnerable,
Yeah.
that's not going to be that fun of an experience. It might be a really good learning experience, but keeping it's just like our nervous system, you know, safe so that we can process certain things is so important.
Yeah, and
And
you
and
bring up a really good point about like seeking others and finding support and not because I what I see sometimes is that when people maybe get attached to who it is that needs to be that person. So,
mm,
like, if my friend is not showing up for me, or if my partner's not showing up for me, and that's the person that I feel like should be the one to hold that space for me, and they're not capable of doing that, right? You can really get into the space of resentment with people because, and not realizing that you're you're creating that resentment, right? But the person may not have the capacity and they may not be the right person. So like really being able to expand and look outside of, so like if you don't have that support in your inner circle, well, where can I go to? How can I expand my circle to find that space for myself, right? And take care of myself, but also to kind of let go of that expectation and attachment that people that may not have the skills, may not have that, may not be their gift for me in my
mm.
life, right? To release that and allow the people that do, that have the gift and to serve me.
And to know it's not personal. I feel like this is
Yeah,
the theme I keep saying.
yeah, no,
They
it's so true.
they can love you in their own, like, love is always there. Love is always there.
Always there.
And we're talking about relating, like the relationships. It's not personal, how open someone's heart is to allow that to flow through and or versus the other person. The love is there. It's not about you. It's about what that person is growing through and like the whole thing. And with that said, that doesn't have to be the person that is there for you. Like it's taking personal responsibility and asking for that help in knowing, where to go. And yeah, I think um there was a thought I had and it escaped, but it was about space holding. Oh yeah, there's people for people. So if we open up ourselves enough to let go of who we think that needs to hold space for us, and um, we let that go, and we look to see, who comes into our experience, who we are attracted to, um, the way that that person speaks, the way that that person shares, the way that they say something can be such a huge catalyst for so much change in your life. And it had to do with the way that only their makeup of who they are could share with you. So you could learn it from a different teacher, but it's not going to cause such a big impact. We all have come to learn and grow, and there's people who we've come to reach, and each person, is is here to find their people, if that makes sense, and that person's here to find their people, and like that. So I can't force myself to want to learn from someone that maybe I'll learn intellectually, but there won't be um, an embodied sensation in the way
Right.
that they spoke a certain word. So I
Yeah.
love knowing that because that also helps me when people are like, "Oh, you're not for me. Like I don't want to work with you," or like it doesn't work out, and it's like trusting that it's like that's great because I know that there's someone that came to reach you, and even if it's not me, wonderful. There's
Yeah.
people that I've come to reach to as well.
Right.
So it's, it goes all sorts of ways.
Yeah, yeah, and again, a reminder that everybody has different gifts, right? And so for us to stay attached that I have to get all my needs met from just certain people, right? If that's not their gift, right? They're not going to be able to give that to you. So it kind of like you allow everybody to shine in their unique way, to bring their unique gift into your life, to be okay with, when they're not able to meet a certain need, that just means that's not where their gift is. So who else, you know, can support me in that, right?
Mhm. And I love that you say that we all have gifts.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know yours yet and intellectually know it because maybe you've been doing it but you just don't realize it, we all have them. So it's a beautiful thing of it just kind of like ends competition and this lack. It's we all have them and we can all share them with each other and we can all learn, especially if we don't get attached or it becomes personal or whatever other agenda that can be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That attachment, it gets us, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
being human. Oh, what an honor it is to be human at this time,
Um,
in this place,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes, with so
and
many
have,
opportunities for us to grow and expand, and um, so many life lessons to be had at this particular time, you know.
yeah,
Yes.
fun, fun, fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, Miggy, thank you so much for chatting with me. And where can people find you and your offerings?
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share with you. I always just have a great time talking to you. People can reach me. Probably the best place is my website. So infiniteflowhealing.com. And you, there's opportunities for you to schedule a discovery call with me free. So if you just want to hop on and talk to me about something that you might be experiencing and how I may be able to support you, or if you have any questions or like to talk to me about anything else, you have that option. And there's also a contact page that you can fill out a form with any other questions or thing or ideas or insights that you may have.
I'll link it down below in the comments. And yeah, with that, I feel like we covered lots of ground. I was thinking yesterday that I needed to write questions down for you, and then I kept getting the sense of like, no, just kind of have a conversation and share that, um, which I love. It wasn't so scary, was
Me
it?
too. I actually find that knowing ahead of time just creates a lot of unnecessary, you know,
Chatter in your mind.
yeah, yeah, worry or anxiety that I'm going to say the right thing or wrong thing, or So I like the just conversation wherever it leads us, wherever it takes us. That's exactly what was supposed to be said, and it's exactly the message that others may need. So
Oh, thank you. Oh, Elsa
thank you.
commented, can you two please start a podcast? Ooh. Thank
Ooh.
you.
Well, I don't know about the techie stuff.
Right?
Like if I can learn the techie stuff, maybe.
If I can just show up and have them, yeah, I think there is places that anyway,
Yeah.
that's a subject for another time. Um, yeah, that's, is there anything else that you are feeling that needs to
No,
share?
I guess I'm gonna just end with my I how I usually sometimes end my messages when I write is just stay in your heart. Stay in your heart, whatever is going on in life, you know, you're gonna find the gift in it. You're going to have the skills, the capacity, the tools, it's within you. Most of the answers are within us, but let's just, make sure that we stay in our hearts and always come back to ourselves. So,
Hmm, beautiful. Thank you so much.
thank
I love
you,
chatting
Alma.
with you.
I know. I love you, Alma.
I love you. Migdalia. Have a beautiful day, my love. And thank you, everybody that watched this live and is watching the replay.
Yes, thank
Appreciate you.
you. Bye.
Bye.